All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're going to break down how society literally shapes the reality you experience every single day. Seriously, if you've ever stopped and wondered why certain things feel like absolute unbreakable laws of the universe when they're actually just human habits, well, you're definitely in the right place.
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to step into the syllabus of a landmark book, Peter L. Berger and Thomas Luckmann's The Social Construction of Reality. So picture me as your sociology professor for the next 10 minutes or so. A philosopher might look at the world and ask the ultimate, deep question, what is real? But a sociologist, they look at it and say, hey, reality actually differs from person to person. What's absolutely real to a Tibetan monk might not be real to a Wall Street banker. So the sociologist has to ask, how exactly do these totally different realities get built from the ground up?
Before we dive into the main lecture, let's just lock in our prerequisites real quick, starting with our title concept. In super simple, everyday language, the social construction of reality just means that the so-called facts of our social world, they're actually built by us. Society isn't some unstoppable force of nature like gravity. It's 100% a human product. It's our repeated actions and shared habits that eventually harden into an objective world, which we then internalize and just accept as absolute truth. Okay, our second prerequisite term is the sociology of knowledge. Now, when you hear that, you might immediately think of, grand intellectual theories or the history of massive scientific breakthroughs. But here, it simply means studying how everyday, common-sense beliefs and routines become socially established as reality. We're not just looking at big intellectual ideas, we're looking at the mundane, totally taken for granted knowledge. Like how to stand in an elevator or what a quote-unquote normal family looks like. The stuff that just makes society function on a daily basis.
So here's our course outline for today. Number 1, everyday life. Number 2, objective reality. Number 3, subjective reality. And finally, number 4, the human dialectic. Let's get into it.
Part 1. Everyday life. The reality we take for granted.
So the true foundation of all knowledge, it's actually not in a textbook at all. It's literally the world you woke up in this morning. But why do we take this reality so for granted? Well, the reality of everyday life just seems completely natural, right? Ordered, unproblematic. You definitely don't have to consciously think about every single step you take. You actually only notice this taken for granted reality when a problem suddenly interrupts it. Like, imagine your coworkers typing away at their desks next to you. That's a familiar routine. But if they suddenly stop typing, huddle together in a corner and start whispering, boom, your reality is interrupted. You have to figure out what it means just to reintegrate it into your normal world.
Now, to handle all these situations, society provides us with what's called a social stock of knowledge. Think of this as a massive, completely invisible manual for life. It basically categorizes people and situations so we know exactly how to behave without even overthinking it. It gives us these things called typifications. For example, if someone's wearing a neon vest and holding a stop sign, you don't need to know their whole life story. You typify them as a crossing guard, and you know exactly what to do. This stock of knowledge dictates our actions in good weather, bad weather, at a family dinner, or in a corporate office. It basically just organizes our entire world into manageable routines.
And the absolutely crucial point here is that language is the ultimate tool that makes this whole system work. Language literally prearranges our world. It takes our messy, subjective experiences and objectifies them so we can actually share a common life with other people. If you feel a really complex emotion, just putting a word to it lets you share it. Language marks the very coordinates of your life, from naming the country you live in, to the tools in your kitchen, to the social clubs you hang out at. It fills your life with meaningful objects.
Moving on to part 2, objective reality, building a world from scratch.
All right, so to see how our little daily habits morph into this massive objective reality that feels way bigger than us, we just look at a 3-step sequence. Step 1 is human activity. Step 2 is habitualization. Basically, any action that you repeat frequently gets cast into a pattern. And step 3 is objectivation, which leads to institutions. Think of institutionalization kind of like a game. Say 2 people on a desert island invent a new way of doing things, a new game with its own rules. To them, it's just a handy habit, but when they have kids, they teach those rules to them. To the kids, these aren't just habits their parents made up, they are objective facts of the world. This is just how things are done. The original rules get forgotten over generations, and those human habits harden into rigid institutions.
But here's the catch. Because these new generations don't actually remember why the rules were made in the first place, society has to invent legitimations to convince them that these institutions are both plausible and totally necessary. Legitimation essentially explains and justifies the whole order. It can be super simple, like a proverb a parent tells a kid, he who steals gets warts on his hands. Or it can be massively complex, like an entire mythology, a religion, or a scientific theory. But all of these serve the exact same purpose, integrating the different parts of society and telling the newest generation, hey, here is exactly why our world is the way it is.
And that actually brings us to a really dangerous extreme called reification. Reification is what happens when we completely forget our own authorship of the human world. We literally start treating socially constructed rules as if they were unavoidable laws of nature, or maybe divine will. Whenever we say things like, well, that's just the way the economy works, nothing we can do, or that's just human nature, we are reifying reality. We're treating the products of our own human activity as if they are non-human, unchangeable facts. Crazy, right?
All right, on to part 3, subjective reality, internalizing the world.
Now let's completely flip the lens. We've seen how society is built outward, right? Now let's look at how you, the individual, download this massive objective world straight into your own mind. We basically go through 2 major phases. First, primary socialization, which happens in childhood. It is highly emotional, and it implants this massive, unquestionable reality. It's where you learn the absolute basic language and rules of the world. Then comes secondary socialization, which happens later on, like when you go to school or start a new job. This one is formal, role-specific, and honestly, way less emotional. You might strongly rebel against a rule you learned in high school math class, sure, but it takes a severe biographical shock to undo the fundamental reality you absorbed as a toddler. As the authors so perfectly put it, the world of childhood is massively and indubitably real. And why is that? Well, because we have absolutely no choice in our early caregivers. We just get who we get. So their version of the world is internalized as the only possible reality. A kid doesn't see their parents' rules as just one way of living. They see them as the world, period. This creates a deeply rooted sense of confidence and normalcy. It's really only much later in life that an individual can actually afford the luxury of doubt. But here's the thing. Socialization is never actually complete. To keep believing in our reality, we need constant reality maintenance. Our significant others, like family and close friends, are the main agents for this. But we also rely heavily on a sort of chorus of casual acquaintances. The book uses this wonderful example of a commuter train. You might wake up super groggy from a weird dream, and your reality feels just a little bit tenuous. But then you get on the train. You see a crowd of fellow commuters, earnest people heading to work, checking their schedules, reading the morning paper. And even without speaking a single word to them, this silent routine perfectly reaffirms that your world is sane, solid, and real. Literally every casual conversation you have acts as a tiny apparatus that maintains this reality.
Which brings us to our final part, part 4, the human dialectic, the ultimate aha moment.
This is the moment where all these sociological mechanics just beautifully click into place. We can finally see the full circle of how we interact with the world around us. This core triad basically summarizes the entire book and the whole sociological perspective we've been exploring. It goes like this. Society is a human product. Society is an objective reality. Man is a social product. It's incredible. We externalize our actions to build the world. Then, that world objectifies and takes on a literal life of its own. And then, we internalize that world and it turns right around and builds us. It is this continuous, totally unbreakable loop. So I want to leave you with this one provocative thought to ponder as you step back into your very own socially constructed day. Take a look around at your daily routines, the institutions you interact with, the rules you follow without thinking. Which parts of your own daily reality have you completely mistaken for absolute laws of nature, when they're really just games whose original rules we've all forgotten? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the reality around you.